The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Health and Wellness channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericahealth.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed in the following program are strictly those of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management. Welcome to Kids Health Revolution Radio with host Deborah Morgan. On our show, we'll discuss natural and alternative health approaches to help children who have chronic health concerns. You'll hear from professional health experts and fellow parents who have used these proven methods to improve the health of their children, and you can too. Now, here's Deborah Morgan.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Kids Health Revolution. I'm your host, Deborah Morgan, and I got to tell you guys, it has been a dramatic couple of days around this household. Probably about 8 months ago, we got our son his first pet. So we got him a sweet little Siamese cat. We rescued him from the Humane Society, and he has been such a joy, and my son is just in love, and of course we all are. And when it comes to pets, you're either in two sort of camps. You like your pet, it's cool, it's good, but it's an animal. Or you're firmly in the this is a fundamental part of our family camp. And that's where we are. Little Patrick is most definitely a part of our family. My son refers to him as his brother. And the other day, the little critter, he goes in and out, and he's always back in the evening for bedtime and goes to bed with my son. But the other night, he didn't come back. And he didn't come back for an entire day the next day. And we were fit to be tied and doing all the things that we could do. And it was a really different experience because I've been through this myself personally before and felt the devastation that we felt, but having a little 8-year-old and trying to help him with his sense of loss through this, and while keeping hope at the same time and helping him manage his emotions and allow for the feelings and feel the feelings and express them without being engulfed by them at the same time, and letting him know that it's going to be okay and his life is going to carry on, and then manage my emotions on top of it so that, he can see me feeling my feelings, but yet not becoming overwhelmed by my feelings for it as well. So it's been quite a process the past few days, but I am happy to say this morning we woke up at 6:30 in the morning, and I looked at the little cushion and blanket I had out there in case he came home, and lo and behold, there he was, the little angel. So he is back in our life again, and back in our bosom, so to speak, and my son is over the top happy, and so am I. So we're sort of celebrating around here today. And I'm also really celebrating because this show is such a great show. Not that they're all not great shows. I hope I'm really bringing you lots of great stuff. But today I am so thrilled to have our guest on with us. He is one of the world's leading experts in gluten and gluten sensitivities. He's doing some amazing work for people around autoimmunity, and I just can't wait to jump in and talk to him. Just before I introduce him and bring him onto the show, I do want to quickly remind you that we are doing our live Facebook series on the Kids Health Revolution site to help you handle the holidays while you're on a gluten-free, dairy-free, or a paleo-GAP style diet. It's still very possible to have wonderful holiday memories and experiences and parties without having to derail all your health goals. So we're going to help you cook up some fabulous recipes. We're going to do some cooking demonstrations. We're also going to be talking about how to handle family and going to families' homes who aren't necessarily on board with what you're doing with your diet. These things can all be navigated, and I've been through them all, so I want to help you navigate them so that you can do this holiday season with success and not have to start January 1st again with that holiday resolution that you're jumping back on the bandwagon and trying to heal all the damage you've done over the past couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be continuing to do that on the Facebook. There'll always be announcements. And if you're a member of kidshealthrevolution.com community, you will also get email reminders through the site. So looking forward to joining you on more of those. So now, without further ado, we have lots of stuff to talk about today. So I'm going to jump right in and introduce our guest. I mentioned before on the show a documentary series called the Betrayal Series. And it is such an important watch if you have a child or any family member with an autoimmune related issue. So I'm over the moon thrilled to have the man behind the series, Dr. Tom OBryan, join me today on the show. Dr. OBryan is a world expert, as I mentioned, on gluten and its impact on your health. He's an internationally recognized and sought-after speaker and workshop leader. He specializes in the complications of non-celiac gluten sensitivity, celiac disease, and the development of autoimmune diseases. He's the founder of thedoctor.com and the visionary behind the Gluten Summit, A Grain of Truth, which brings together 29 of the world's experts on the gluten connection to diseases, disorders, and a wide range of symptoms and ages. And you can find information on this Gluten Summit at www.theglutensummit.com. Dr. OBryan is also widely considered the Sherlock Holmes for chronic disease and metabolic disorders and treats them from a functional medicine perspective. He holds an adjunct faculty position with the Institute for Functional Medicine and the National University of Health Sciences, and has trained thousands of practitioners around the world in advanced understanding of the impact of food-related disorders and the development of individual autoimmune diseases. And he is also the author of a critically acclaimed, groundbreaking book that I love, The Autoimmune Fix. So, hello, Dr. OBryan, and welcome to Kids Health Revolution Radio.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. Hello, and it's a real pleasure to be with you.
I'm so glad to have you here. It's an absolute honor. I know you are pretty crazy busy right now with this wonderful documentary series that you've just launched.
Yes, it's really gratifying to see there's over 225,000 people now that are watching the event online for free.
Wow, I love it. That's great. That's a huge impact that you're having with that series, reaching a lot of people. And I have on the Voice America page, if you are listening today from the Voice America page, at the top you'll see a banner there where you can click to get connected to this Betrayal series. It is also on my Facebook page, so there is always a link there so that you can make sure that you don't miss this really important series that Dr. OBryan is doing. So, Dr. OBryan, I always start the show with each guest by asking them to share just a little bit of their personal story. So maybe you could share a little bit with listeners of, what got you into the functional medicine field and into, the path to writing books and making movies about it too.
I've never thought about making movies, but you're right. It is. It started 36 years ago when I was an intern, and my wife and I could not get pregnant. And I called the 7 most famous holistic doctors I'd ever heard of at the time and asked them what they do. They all told me what they do, and I put a program together, and we were pregnant in 6 weeks.
Wow.
My neighbors in married housing had been through artificial insemination previously, and nothing had worked. And they asked if I'd work with them, and I said, well, I don't think anything here will harm you. And sure, I guess, okay. Mm-hmm. They were pregnant in three months. And so by the time I went out into practice, we were hot to trot and help every couple get pregnant that wanted to get pregnant. And it's turned out over the years that we've helped hundreds and hundreds of couples with either infertility or recurrent miscarriages, unexplained hormone imbalances. And I found over the years that there's not much in medicine that's all or every. This is an every. Mm-hmm. Every single person that had hormone imbalances manifesting as an inability to get pregnant, miscarriages, PMS, perimenopausal symptoms, low testosterone in men. Every single person has some foods that they're eating that are causing inflammation in their body, and they don't know that they have a problem with that food. They just don't know. Mm-hmm. And when they take that inflammatory trigger out, the inflammation cools down, the fire cools down, and Mrs. Patient, if you pull at a chain, the chain always breaks at the weakest link. It's at one end, the middle, the other end. It's your heart, your brain, your liver, your kidneys. Wherever your genetic weak link is, that's where the chain's going to break if you pull too hard. And so for some people, when they eat foods that are inflammatory for them, they get migraines or attention deficit. For somebody else, they get knee pain. For somebody else, they get ovarian dysfunction. For somebody else, it's liver dysfunction. That it just depends on the individual. But we have to take a step back from the symptoms that we have and realize that if your car is blowing black smoke out of the exhaust pipe, you don't treat the exhaust pipe. You have to figure out where it's coming from. Yes. So that got me into the whole field 36 years ago, and the godfather of functional medicine is Dr. Jeffrey Bland, and I happened to hear Dr. Bland speak his first time in Chicago in 1978, and I've been following him ever since, and so that was my introduction and my birth into functional medicine, our personal experience that you had to look for where the triggers were causing the weak link in the chain for us. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. Here's an example. When a couple mates and a man ejaculates, millions of sperm are swimming up the canal, but only one or two at the most get through penetrating the egg. But there are millions of sperm swimming up. Why only one gets through? Here's why. When the sperm hits the egg, the sperm secretes an enzyme from the head of the sperm. There's a little enzyme that digests some of the mucus that's surrounding the egg. It's like a force field around the egg. Mm-hmm. And the enzyme digests a little bit of that mucus so the sperm can swim through and get inside. When it swims through and gets inside, it turns on genes in the egg that shut down the mucus layer so no other sperm can get in. That's why there's only one or maybe two. Now, that enzyme secreted in the head of the sperm is completely zinc dependent. So if a man has a zinc insufficiency or a zinc deficiency, he's firing duds. And the only test that's done for men with infertility couples is sperm count and sperm motility. And that's the same test they've been looking at for 15 years. And that's still what they do today. And so that test comes. That's right. And so that test comes back, and the guy's all worried and stuff, and the doc says, "Oh, your results are fine." So the guy kind of puffs his chest and says, "Well, it must be you, honey." And then the woman has to go through all kind of hormones and treatments that alter her hormonal balance. And the problem may be that the guy's firing duds, and that's why in folklore, everyone knows if you eat oysters, it's very likely that the couple will be intimate that night. And that's because oysters are very high in zinc. So guys will feel a little more energy. They'll feel a little more sexual energy when they eat oysters.
Aha. Is that where that rhyme came from?
That's right.
I think that there's a rhyme about that, isn't there?
I've heard it, but I can't remember it.
I can't either, and I'm not sure I want to say it on the radio. So, but yeah, I think that's I didn't know that was the origin of that little rhyme. Yeah, so,
yes,
great.
Oysters are one of the highest sources of zinc.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Love the story. And I love how there's that personal connection. And that's why I always ask people that question, because what never fails is that anybody who has gotten into this sort of functional medicine or functional nutrition sort of world has a personal story that connects them to having a bit of a paradigm shift.
Yes.
And I think your story is a really great one. I'm curious, how did it transition from fertility into things like gluten sensitivities and autoimmunity?
Well, what I found out very early in my career, that the most common food. So every couple, every person that has hormonal imbalances, and I don't like saying every, but clinically that's what we have found over the years. Every person that has hormone imbalances has some foods that they're eating that they're sensitive to, and they don't know they're sensitive to them. Mm-hmm. Because when they eat them, they don't get stomach pain, right, or bloating or gas or constipation or diarrhea. So they think there's no problem, but if the weak link in the chain is your reproductive system, you may make sperm that doesn't have enough of the enzyme, the penetrating enzyme, to initiate fertility. Mm-hmm. So every couple that has those particular complaints, hormonal-related complaints, has food sensitivities. Every single one that I've checked. Uh-huh. And the most common food sensitivity is wheat. Most common. We average 132.5 pounds of wheat per person per year in the United States.
Holy cow.
132 pounds. Now, I don't eat any, which means somebody else is eating 265 pounds.
Right, and I don't eat any either, so they're making up for my share too.
That's right. But that's the national average, is 132 pounds of this stuff. And there have been many studies. Harvard published a study last year. It was Dr. Holland, Hollon, and his team at Harvard. They published a study, and they showed that every single human being, when they're exposed to wheat, their body reacts and develops something called intestinal permeability, or the slang term is the leaky gut. Every time.
Right.
Within 5 minutes of the wheat getting into the intestines, every time they develop intestinal permeability. Now, intestinal permeability is the gateway into the development of autoimmune diseases, whether it's Hashimoto's thyroid disease or MS or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. That the gateway is the intestinal permeability that gets triggered by many different things, but a very common trigger is eating wheat. It does it to every person every time.
Okay. Interesting. So there's the connection. I see it now. Thank you for illuminating that for me. We need to take just a short little break so that you guys can run off and get yourselves a glass of water or whatever you need to do, and come back and join us in 1 minute to really dive deep into more of Dr. O'Bryan's wisdom. So we will be back in just 1 minute.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Do you have a child with chronic illness, autoimmune condition, or mental health issue? In just 7 weeks, you can start improving your child's health naturally. Deborah Morgan, the creator of Kids Health Revolution, will show you how to transform your family to a gut healing protocol in just 7 weeks, without all the time-consuming guesswork and hair-pulling frustration. All it takes is one small change each week to get there. Go to kidshealthrevolution.com for more details.
Tune into the Voice America Variety channel on the Voice America Talk Radio Network. Voice America Variety broadcasts a diverse array of topics reaching a global community. Our experts come from all walks of life, and the topics they discuss are everything from current events, arts and entertainment, leadership, parenting, relationships, self-improvement, career advice, and a variety of other topics. Check us out today. You're sure to find something of interest. Voice America Variety. Talk on today's hot topics.
Opinions, options, answers. Voice America Health and Wellness.
This is Kids Health Revolution Radio with Deborah Morgan. To reach the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or send an email to Deborah@DeborahMorganConsulting.com. Now, back to Kids Health Revolution Radio.
Welcome back to Kids Health Revolution Radio. You're here with your host, Deborah Morgan, and we are talking today with Dr. Tom OBryan, and we are going to be digging into lots of things you need to know about gluten and how that impacts your child's health, and autoimmunity, and all kinds of pieces of this puzzle that Dr. OBryan is going to help us put together. So I think what I'd like to move into right now, Dr. OBryan, is just talking about how, chronic and autoimmune conditions, we know they're on the rise globally. Everybody knows that. But these diseases, a lot of them were once the territory of adults and aging, really. But they're now affecting even our really little kids. So I wonder if you can comment on this rise in our children.
Yes, it's across the board. It's across all ages. The purpose of the Betrayal Series, and it's called Betrayal, the autoimmune disease solution they're not telling you. The purpose of Betrayal and the purpose of my book, which came out about a month ago, it's called The Autoimmune Fix, is the same. And that is to bring to awareness to everyone that when we have a disease, whether it's heart disease or brain disease or thyroid disease, that it's just black smoke coming out of the exhaust pipe. That's not where the problem is. That's where the weak link in the chain is. And you have to go what we call upstream to find out, where's it coming from? What's the trigger? So that's the big picture. That's true about heart attacks. That's true about cardiovascular disease is autoimmune. Cancer is autoimmune. And you can identify these autoimmune mechanisms going on in someone years before there's so much damage that it causes symptoms. Years beforehand. And maybe we'll get into that in a minute, but I want to be specific about answering your question. That, yes, it's much more prevalent now in children than ever before in history. Much more prevalent. And when you understand the mechanism of where this comes from, where autoimmune diseases come from, when you understand the mechanism, it becomes very clear as to why it's so more prevalent in all generations, all ages.
Okay.
Now, so let's talk about the mechanism for a minute.
Yeah, let's do that.
So it's the weak link in the chain that's going to cause problems for you, whether it's your heart or your brain or your liver or your kidneys or your reproductive system. That's just the weak link in the chain. So what's pulling on the chain? That's the question. What's pulling on the chain? And it's always inflammation. Always. Every degenerative disease, as far as I know, and there's not much in medicine that's every, but this is one of those. It's an every degenerative disease. At the cellular level, it's always a disease of inflammation. The cell is on fire. So the question is it a brain cell or a kidney cell? Is it gasoline or kerosene? And when you go back upstream to ask those foundational questions and then start looking into, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I had a sensitivity to dairy. Wow. And we know now that there's something called cross-reactivity. And what that means is that if your immune system is fighting a food, if you have a sensitivity to a food, whether you know it or not, but your immune system is fighting that food, it often is the case that the antibodies made by the immune system, the missiles made by the immune system to destroy those particles of food, those missiles start attacking your own tissue. It's like it's a cross-reactivity. It's a well, let's go through the visual of what this is, because I think it's really helpful for people.
Awesome.
If you get a vaccination for measles, they give you a shot of the bug measles. And your brain says, what's that in my bloodstream? That's not good for me. I better fight that. You, general, and in your immune system, you've got Army, Air Force, Marine Corps generals sitting around with nothing to do. You, general, you now are General Measles. Fight this. General Measles builds an assembly line, and the assembly line starts producing soldiers. They're called antibodies. The antibodies are trained as assassins, and all they do is they go through the bloodstream looking for measles. When they see measles, they fire their chemical bullets called cytokines. They fire their chemical bullets, and they destroy the measles bug. And that's all these antibodies do. They're trained to just go after measles. And when all of the measles bug from the vaccination are gone, general measles says, all right, turn off the assembly line. We don't need more soldiers right now. So you shouldn't have measles antibodies in your bloodstream right now unless you've been exposed, and then you should. But general measles is now vigilant the rest of his life. For the rest of his life, general measles is there to protect you. If you're ever exposed, once again, he just has to flip the switch to get more soldiers in the bloodstream. He doesn't have to build the assembly line. That's why if you're going to Africa, you need vaccinations months and months ahead of time for yellow fever and dengue fever, all these weird diseases that they've got there. But if you're going back to visit 15 or 20 years later, you just need a booster shot 2 weeks before you go for yellow fever or dengue fever. You just have to wake up general yellow fever, and he flips the switch and turns on the assembly line. Everybody's heard of booster shots. That's how they work.
Okay.
The same thing happens with food sensitivities. So you've got, if you're sensitive to cow's milk, for example, and some people are, you've got general cow's milk. And general cow's milk builds the assembly line, and these soldiers are out there going after the cow's milk from the cheese that you ate in the pizza. Well, what happens with these soldiers, if you think of these soldiers being produced, this assembly line, they're like, think of Arnold Schwarzenegger with his head out of a Humvee. He's got a big submachine gun going over there, over there, over there. And he's firing these chemical bullets. Here in California, we call him the Governator.
The Governator, yeah, I love it.
The Governator, right? Well, he's got these dark glasses on, and he can't quite see very clearly going through the bloodstream. So sometimes what happens, what do I want to say? The signature of the food, in this case, in this example I'm giving you of cow's milk, is made of proteins, and the proteins are made up of the building blocks of protein. They're called amino acids. So you look at the amino acid signature. So I'm going to say it's AABCD. It might be 30 amino acids long, but I'm just going to say AABCD. So Arnold's going through the bloodstream looking for AABCD. Everywhere he sees it, he fires a chemical bullet. Over there, firing his chemical bullets. Now remember, the bloodstream is just a highway. It's just carrying a whole bunch of stuff on the highway. And there's no lanes of traffic. There's no organization. They're all going the same way, but everything's bouncing around in there. And Arnold's got those dark glasses on. He can't see very clearly. He says, over there, over there. Now, as the blood's going past the thyroid, for example, as the blood's going past the thyroid, the surface of the thyroid facing the bloodstream is made up of proteins and fats, and proteins are made up of amino acids. So part of the surface of the thyroid facing the bloodstream is made up of AABCD. Now, it's hundreds of amino acids long, but it includes AABCD. So Arnold, going through the bloodstream, over there, oh, look, over there, and he fires his chemical bullets and attacks the thyroid. Now you've got a damaged thyroid cell, and your body has to make antibodies to get rid of the damaged thyroid cell. And it does that very easily and very smoothly. It's not a problem at all. It happens every day. The problem is if you keep eating the food every day. So if, in this example, I said dairy, so you have milk with your cereal in the morning, you have cheese for lunch, you have a little ice cream after dinner, day after week after week after month, making more antibodies to milk, more antibodies to milk, more antibodies to milk. And it goes past the thyroid. And if that's the weak link in your chain, Arnold keeps firing his chemical bullets at the thyroid, at the thyroid, at the thyroid. And then your body has to make antibodies to get rid of the damaged thyroid cells, the damaged thyroid cells, the damaged thyroid cells, until eventually the antibodies to the thyroid, to the weak link in your chain, become self-perpetuating. When that happens, now you've got an autoimmune thyroid mechanism going on. Now you're killing off the thyroid cells way, way too fast. And now all of a sudden you start having symptoms of a dysfunctional thyroid. It might be cold hands and feet, hard to get up in the morning, wish you had 20 more minutes in bed. Can't lose weight even if you don't eat for a few days, feeling sluggish, maybe a little depressed, many signs of thyroid dysfunction. And it all started from a sensitivity to dairy that you didn't know you had. Now, the common tissues where this will occur with dairy, it's your brain. It's an area of the brain called myelin. That's the saran wrap around your nerves. And when you have elevated antibodies to myelin, you develop MS eventually. With wheat, it's almost any tissue of your body that there may be this cross-reactivity. It's in your brain, so you could get Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. It can be in your muscles. It can be in your bones. You get osteoporosis. It can be in your kidney. Any tissue of the body is vulnerable. There are thousands and thousands of studies on this. So we don't know this as a people, and so we think we're healthy until all of a sudden we've got black smoke coming out of our exhaust. And your doctor says, well, it looks like you might have MS, or you might have infertility, or you might have liver problems, or wherever the weak link in your chain is. But what people need to understand, this has been going on for a long time before the symptoms ever begin. The symptoms are not the first representation, they're the last straw. That we've been killing off tissue years beforehand. And now you can identify this years in advance. It's a really simple blood test, and you can find out where's the weak link in my chain. And am I pulling too hard on that weak link in the chain? That's what the book, The Autoimmune Fix, is all about. And that's what the experts on betrayal are trying to tell us in their own way with the questions I'm asking them. I've interviewed 85 of the world leaders. 85. I've been in London 3 times, Barcelona, Lisbon, Madrid, Leipzig, Germany, just interviewing the world experts who've been writing papers, research papers, all on a different piece of this puzzle. And Betrayal and the Autoimmune Fix is putting the puzzle together so that people can say, wow, this just makes sense. And
it really is, yeah. It's helping to put the puzzle together for sure. You know, I've been working in this field for quite a long time, and you know, even in just reading your book, you know, there's been a few ways of looking at the puzzle that for me have been quite enlightening. And I love your visual with the immune system and how it gets, you know, sort of turned on and then can get a bit confused about what proteins it's attacking. It's a perfect visual. So what I'd like to do is maybe talk a little bit about, you mentioned in your book about the autism spectrum. And I think that's such an interesting way of seeing it, and maybe how we can relate that to things that maybe people who have a child who isn't diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, but they're just maybe generally unwell, or their child has severe asthma or severe eczema, you know, some of these conditions that are chronic, but yet not necessarily diagnosed as autoimmune. So can you maybe just enlighten us a little bit about how that might be connected in there?
Oh, sure. I think the way of doing that is to give you an example of a research paper that really changed the way that doctors think. It doesn't sound like it relates to autism, but you'll see that it does, and then we'll talk more specific about autism and about kids and their brains. So this was Dr. Melissa Arbuckle, and in 2002, she went to the VA hospital, and she looked for people with the autoimmune disease called lupus. And she found 130 people with lupus in the VA, in that VA hospital. So if they're in the VA system, they're veterans. If they're veterans, they were in the armed forces. If they were in the armed forces, they got their blood drawn many times over the years when they were in the armed forces. What people don't know is that the government's been saving all of that blood since 1978. They've got tens of thousands of samples, tens of millions of samples of our service people's blood, all frozen.
Great study material.
Arbuckle went back to the VA and asked for permission to look at the blood of the people currently diagnosed with lupus when they were healthy in the Navy or in the Air Force or in the Marines. And she got permission, and what did she find? There are 7 antibodies that will cause lupus. She found that every single lupus patient had the antibodies elevated years and years before they ever had a symptom. The average was 9 years. Every single lupus patient had this mechanism going on, killing off their tissue, killing off their tissue, killing off their tissue. They never had any symptoms. They didn't know. They were healthy. If you talk to them, say, yeah, I'm healthy. And if they did a standard physical and a standard blood test, nothing would show because the doctors didn't look for antibodies to lupus. Why would they?
Of course.
There's no indicator to look for that. But every single one of them had the antibodies elevated years and years beforehand. So what that tells us, and since then, other researchers have said, well, that's brilliant. I'm going to go back and look for people with MS. I'm going to look for people with diabetes. I'm going to look for people with rheumatoid arthritis. And so what we know now, and what's been developed, is called the positive predictive value, the PPV. Meaning, if you have these antibodies elevated, what's the likelihood that you're going to get this disease? With the thyroid, Hashimoto's thyroid disease, for example, the TPO antibodies, if they're elevated, especially postpartum, it's 92% likely you're getting Hashimoto's within 7 years. Doesn't matter if you feel fine or not, that you're killing off your tissue right now and you're not getting any symptoms, so you don't know. So anyone asks you, yeah, I feel fine. But 92%, more than 9 out of 10 people, if the antibodies are elevated, they get Hashimoto's within 7 years. With celiac, if the antibodies are elevated to something called transglutaminase, it's 50% you're going to get celiac. But if you also carry the gene for celiac disease, it's 100%. You're getting celiac within 7 years, Mrs. Patient. So the simple blood test could tell you what's the deck of cards that you're playing with right now. For the example of an antibody to a common yeast in the gut, the antibodies are called ASCA. If you have elevated ASCA antibodies, it's 100% you're getting the autoimmune disease Crohn's within 3 years. 3 years.
Wow.
And people don't feel any symptoms. They feel fine. They don't know that there's a problem going on. So we now know that. We now know that the PPV is there. So I started looking into this in 1997, and I did the blood test. It was experimental at the time. It's not anymore, meaning that there wasn't a lot of data. It was a theory. But I did that blood test, and I had 3 different antibodies elevated to my brain. Now, I was in the peak of my career in my profession. I was in my mid-40s, doing really well, very successful, helping a lot of people, raising a family. I was doing triathlons regularly, and I was scoring in the top third of the 30 to 35-year-olds, and I was 44. So I'd walk with a little pride and puff my chest out a little bit, healthy, strong guy. And so I was in the peak of my health, and I did this, yeah, sure, I'll try your blood test. I tried it, and it came back with antibodies elevated to 3 different parts of my brain. And I called the lab and said, this is a mistake. I'm as healthy as can be. They said, no, it's not. I said, do it again. They said, we did. We know it's you. We did it again. It's accurate. Sorry. That was my wake-up call. And the antibodies were myelin basic protein. That's what causes MS. Because you kill off the myelin, that's the saran wrap around your nerves. Cerebellar antibodies were elevated, and that's why old people can't walk up and down the stairs very well. They have to hold on to the railing because their cerebellum's been shrinking over the years from being attacked by the immune system. And ganglioside antibodies, that causes shrinkage of the brain. That gives you dementia when you're in your 60s and 70s and you can't remember the way you used to, and your brain's not functioning very well. And it's these old people that are rigid and they can't think big pictures anymore. So I had 3 of these antibodies elevated in my brain in my 40s. And that was the wake-up call for me. That really made a difference for me. And
That's
then
amazing.
I started researching this a lot more thoroughly. And that was in 1997.
That's quite a while ago. Dr. O'Brien,
Yes,
we
it
need
was.
to just take another quick commercial break. So we'll do that. And then when we come back, I will have you continue on this path to helping parents understand how, a condition that they're seeing in their child, like asthma or eczema, or in our case, vitiligo, autism, ADHD, all of these things are, again, as you've put it so nicely, just the black smoke, and that there's something been going on inside their bodies for a very long time that leads up to the expression of these conditions. So when we come back in 1 minute, we'll delve a little bit deeper into this discussion.
Opinions, options, answers. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Do you have a child with chronic illness, autoimmune condition, or mental health issue? In just 7 weeks, you can start improving your child's health naturally. Deborah Morgan, the creator of Kids Health Revolution, will show you how to transform your family to a gut healing protocol in just 7 weeks, without all the time-consuming guesswork and hair-pulling frustration. All it takes is one small change each week to get there. Go to kidshealthrevolution.com for more details.
Have you friended us on Facebook yet? Why not? Just go to facebook.com/Voice America or search for the keywords Voice America. Once you are part of our Facebook network, you'll receive daily messages about what's happening with our shows, this week's featured guests, and new happenings of the Voice America Talk Radio Network. And you can add your voice to the always active discussions on our wall. Just go to facebook.com/Voice America or search for Voice America.
Opinions, options, answers. Voice America Health and Wellness.
This is Kids Health Revolution Radio with Deborah Morgan. To reach the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or send an email to Deborah@DeborahMorganConsulting.com. Now, back to Kids Health Revolution Radio.
Welcome back to Kids Health Revolution Radio. You're here with Deborah Morgan, and we are talking with Dr. Tom O'Bryan. Just before the break, we were talking a little bit about how there's lots of stuff going on in our bodies that we don't always even know about before a disease or a chronic condition actually starts to manifest symptoms. And we're going to get a little bit more into detail with that with Dr. O'Bryan in just a moment. But first, I want to just take a moment because Dr. O'Bryan has very generously offered a wonderful gift pack, the gluten-free gift pack to listeners of the Kids Health Revolution Radio in our community. So you do have to be a community member. So if you're not a member already, you can go over to kidshealthrevolution.com and click on free resources. You can sign up to be a member. It's absolutely free, and then you get all the free resources there, and you also get the support of the community, and you'll have access to this wonderful gift pack. And it is an $185 value, which is amazing. It is basically the description of it is that it's, now that you know gluten's an issue from listening to what we're talking about today, they're going to give you access to 28 educational jewels, starting with the best of the Gluten Summit. So you heard me mention the Gluten Summit that Dr. O'Bryan did. So you're going to get access to 28 of those interviews for free. So this is guidance. You're also going to get guidance on what to do next, and 3 of Dr. O'Brien's favorite scientific articles discussing how gluten may be affecting your life. In addition to that, they're also offering a $10 cash value. It's a coupon code that you can use at the thedoctor.com store. So you can go on to the store, thedoctor.com, and use this code that you'll find in the community page, and you'll get $10 off anything that you like there. So that is an amazing gift, and I'm so thankful to Dr. O'Bryan to offer that to our listeners. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Couple things to say. One of the articles that you'll get there is called The Conundrum of Gluten Sensitivity, Why the Tests Are Often Wrong. And the testing has been very poor in this country looking for a sensitivity to gluten. The testing is accurate, but it's not comprehensive. Mm-hmm. Very few doctors know how to do complete tests. So if there are 12 things that could be a problem for you, most doctors are checking one. It's called alpha-gliadin, and it's really important to check for that. But if that comes back negative, they say, see, you don't have a problem. Here's your test result. But what about the other 11? What about the other 11 things? And most doctors just don't know that the laboratories have been putting together more comprehensive tests. So this handout explains it and it makes sense in everyday language, but it also has a little technical stuff in there for the docs. Plus the reference studies are there in the back. And you take this handout to your doctor and say, please read this. Could we try this test, please? And if your doctor is at all open-minded, he's on it because it just makes sense. So it's so important, especially for kids. Listen, here's the thing about kids. Every generation lives a little longer than the generation before. It's been that way for all of humanity until now. The New England Journal of Medicine has published a paper that tells us that for the first time in the history of the human species, for the very first time, children born today have a shorter projected lifespan than their parents. They're going to get sick at earlier ages, get diagnosed with diseases at earlier ages, and die at earlier ages than when their parents die.
Sad.
Now just listen to that for a minute, then listen to this next statistic. This came out 2 weeks ago. I was on an airplane. I read an article, and I thought, that's too bad. The World Wildlife Fund, with 2 universities, just published a paper that showed that 57% of all the wildlife on the planet has disappeared in the last 40 years. 57% of everything is gone. The elephants, the walruses, the rainbow trout, the butterflies, the bumblebees. 57% across the board is gone. Now, just think of what I said a minute ago about kids. And you see that now for the scientists to look at this, they're saying, hey, this is the black smoke for the planet, everybody. This is the black smoke. This is the symptom. We're all getting sick and dying early. And the species that drink the water that's coming down the streams, they're dying faster than anybody. So we have to wake up as a species. And you can't say, okay, I'm going to take a vitamin. I'll be better now. You can't do that. That's not going to work. We have to shift how we think about our health, how we think about our environment, how we think about the Roundup that you're spraying on the driveway to get rid of the dandelions in between the concrete cracks or on your sidewalk.
Yes.
Because that stuff is very, very poisonous. Well, it's on the sidewalk. It's no big deal. No, you walk on the sidewalk, and then you walk in the house with your shoes, and the Roundup gets on the carpet, and then your 2-year-old is crawling or your 1-year-old's crawling on the carpet. They get the Roundup in their hands, and it gets in their bodies. Or your teenagers are laying on the floor in the carpeted living room doing their homework. And you walk through there with your shoes. That's why you have to take your shoes off when you come into the house, not for some Japanese Zen thing. It's to keep your house clean. You need a clean environment. So one more statistic, and then I'll get to the kids.
Sure.
250 pounds per person per day of toxic chemicals are being dumped in the U.S. every day. 250 pounds per person per day. So, Deborah, there's you and I and the producer right now. That's 3 of us. That means 750 pounds of toxic chemicals for us, just the 3 of us, are being dumped in the country every day. Every day.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And we wonder why we're suffering.
That's right. That's right. It's a toxic world we're living in, and it's the immune system that's your armed forces that's there to protect you. The Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Navy. It's your immune system. And what betrayal is all about is using your immune system to say, is there a problem right now? So you're going to hear the world-class scientists talk to you about silicone implants, talk to you about vaccines, talk to you about Roundup, about GMO foods, about the air. And you're going to hear all this stuff. Plus, you're going to get all the little tidbits of what to do. The simple things like get in the habit of not wearing your shoes in the house. Have slippers by the door. Or use a chlorine shower filter when you're taking a shower. Really simple for $50, and it saves so many people from thyroid disease. You're going to learn all kinds of little tips like that in my book and in the Betrayal Series. That's why everyone needs to hear this, is because this is the number one trigger that's causing these statistics of us getting sick at earlier ages and dying at earlier ages. And the immune system is your protection, the armed forces. That's why you need to make friends with your immune system, find out how it's currently working, where's the weak link in your chain, meaning the elevated antibodies, where are they going? After your thyroid, after your brain, after your heart, after your liver. I'll give you one example. A guy came to us, 44-year-old guy. His father had died of 44 of a massive heart attack. His two older brothers had died in their 40s of massive heart attacks. When his last brother died, he went to a cardiologist at age 28 and was put on a statin to protect him. That's the drugs to keep cholesterol low.
Yeah.
So he came to me at 44, the picture of health. 14% body fat, never ate junk foods, ever exercised regularly, happy guy, successful guy in life, really smart guy, really smart, which is why he came to me. He said, I've heard about your tests. I want to do your tests, looking for antibodies, because he knew that the deck of cards was stacked against him. We found that he had 3 antibodies to his heart, sky high. But this guy's a picture of health. He says, I feel fine. I say that's the danger here. And he said, why are these antibodies elevated? Why is my heart being killed off? I said, I don't know. Let's find out. And we found out that he had elevated antibodies to wheat and to dairy. And remember, I talked about cross-reactivity, the AABCD. Yep. It was happening for this guy to his heart because that was the weak link in his chain. We took wheat and dairy out of his diet, rechecked him in 6 months, the antibodies to his heart were down to normal. That's the power of this work. That's the power of this work. Everyone needs to understand this and start having discussions with their doctor about it. So you see the
and
link.
Unfortunately, I think that a lot of the testing that you know as a functional medicine doctor, you have access to just a doctor who's working in the regular medical system. I don't know if this is true in the U.S., but it definitely is in the state or here in Canada. They may not have access to these same tests, or maybe they have access. They just don't have, within the way their practice is set up, the time to do it. Right.
Right. So that's correct. Well, the tests are available in Canada. I know they are.
Yes.
So it's possible.
Yeah, but you have to go to a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath. You're just not going to get them from your regular medical doctor. It's just not going to happen. And unfortunately, I hope that's changing. I hope things like, your series and a lot of the other stuff that's going on out there is not only shifting the patient's perspective, but starting to shift the perspective of other doctors. So we are running up against the end of the show. I cannot believe that the time has gone by so quickly, and you've really shared some great insight in helping parents understand, this black smoke and what's going on. And, I'd like to point out that, one question that I get a lot about that is people saying, well, it's a child. How can this have been going on for so long? My son was diagnosed with vitiligo at 2 years old. But what we need to understand is these things were going on in my body for a long time before that. Then he was in my body. And so a lot of these things can start in utero before the child is even born. Am I correct with that?
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. The studies are very clear now that pregnant women, for example, if they're exposed to secondhand smoke, so they're not smoking themselves, they're just in a room with smokers, much higher risk of asthma in their children. Much higher risk.
Right.
Much
so
higher.
We need to be aware of these things and be preventative even before we think about conceiving our children. And I know that that's a hard thing for a lot of people to get their heads around, but we need to start being proactive about our health. And I think that's what the Betrayal Series is all about, and your book is all about. So really quickly, we have a little less than 30 seconds, Dr. O'Bryan. I'd like you to just tell people how they can watch the Betrayal Series for free right now.
Oh, thank you. If you go to the link that's on your page and click there, it'll take you right to betrayalseries.com. Okay.
And they just have to put in their email address. Is that right? And then they get an email in their inbox every day. I've been getting them, tells me when a new part of the series is out, and you can watch it. And I highly recommend it. There's a lot of great information. So you can click on it on the Voice America page. It's at the top on the banner. You can also do kidshealthrevolution.com, the Facebook page. I've got it all over the place there, so you make sure that you'll get access to it for free at the moment. But I believe, Dr. O'Brien, it's just a limited time that it's for free. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so jump on it right now, people. Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. O'Brien, for joining me today. I'm so sorry we didn't have a little bit more time to jump into more details, but you've given us some great information and great food for thought for our parents, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Awesome. Take care. Thanks to the listeners for tuning in today, and I look forward to talking with you again next week.
Thank you for listening to Kids Health Revolution Radio. Please join your host, Deborah Morgan, again next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks again for listening to the preceding program, brought to you on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericahealth.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the preceding program are strictly those of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by Voice America Talk.